keep it simple. Keep it as simple as you can. Okay. And make sure it's easily accessible to each partner. Okay. So we use iCloud Notes. And we eventually transferred that to actually our whiteboard, which we're going to get into. So not yet. But make sure it's visible to both partners daily.
A lot of people, when we ask them what are the biggest challenges when it comes to relationships, a lot of people will say communication. And
we say whiteboard.
Whiteboard is the antidote to that, because of the fact that whenever there's a disagreement or whenever you two aren't seeing eye to eye, one of the things that whiteboards do, they do a wonderful job at helping you guys get closer to that. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals from all over the world, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast for episode number 123. 123 weeks in a row. That means we surpassed 2 years and we forgot to celebrate.
Yeah, makes sense.
Whoa, we surpassed 2 years at episode 104, 52 weeks a year. But that's neither here nor there. So episode 123, the top 3 tools to help your relationships flourish. Imagine a painter without the right paintbrushes. Imagine a sculptor without the right chisel. Imagine a gardener without the right shovels. That is what we don't want for you. Before we jump into this episode, I really pulled that out of nowhere.
Creative.
Thank you so much. Yeah. You didn't know that I was going to be able to do that. That was great because I don't garden or shovel.
Or paint.
Or sculpt. So that was really a dangerous territory for me personally. But I made it work.
Good job.
So for everyone out there, today's going to be a playful episode. It is apparently 96 degrees in this studio. It's hot. Our HVAC is currently unavailable. AC system, yeah. But before we jump into this episode, I want to thank Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this podcast and so many others, and for spreading self-improvement, personal growth, mental health, positive, constructive impact into the world. Thank you, including, obviously, the best podcast ever of all time, the Conscious Couples Podcast. So thank you. As always, sweetheart, ladies first, what is your intention for today's episode?
My intention is to help bring in some of the mechanics that you and I use and deploy with clients in a relationship to help relationships be able to flourish a little bit better. Because a lot of us get into relationships and we kind of drift around just hoping that it'll work. And what we actually find in real life is it doesn't work that way. So applying the mechanics of relationships specifically regarding our tools.
Okay.
And helping our listeners apply those in their life.
So prior to Emilia, I met Emilia when I was 29, almost 30. And so I had 29 years of basically just misery.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. No, but I had many relationships prior to Emilia. And we had never used these tools in my previous relationships for the most part. I don't want to say never, but very rarely. Not to the extent that you and I have done them. And in the beginning parts of our relationship, Emilia and I were very unique is probably the best way to put it. And you and I, for the first few months, were just like, what? Why have I never done this before? Why have I never used these tools before? So without further ado, Emilia is going to give you the list of tools, top 3 tools. What are the top 3 tools?
We'll do an overview to start. So I remember distinctly going into my phone and kind of looking back at our relationship actually a couple months ago. And I remember there was this one photo of you and I when I used to live at my parents' house. And it was you and I at the kitchen table. It was round and we had breakfast plates of like eggs and like chicken sandwich or not
you
chicken
used to
sandwiches.
make egg sammies.
Egg sammies. It was egg sammies.
Good, yeah.
Orange juice. And then what we had was our 2 laptops, and what was on it, which is one of these tools, is our calendar. And I was kind of chuckling to myself because it's something, like you said, that a lot of relationships don't leverage, and that we have so many kind of cheat codes that we are so eager to give to other relationships, and that
Game changer.
they are. So many people just don't really take advantage of them. So the top 3 tools that we're going to be talking
us
about
in the past.
Definitely.
Because prior to you and I, you had never used these tools, at least not to their full capacity.
I use the tools individually, but what I found is I was unsuccessful with past relationships at their interest in wanting to use them as a tool within our relationship to help it be smoother and help us get closer together. And
some would say flourish.
Yeah, some would say flourish. And as a matter of fact, in hindsight, it's really obvious to me that the relationships that weren't open to tools to help the relationship get better ultimately weren't going to work out anyway. So with that being said, 3 tools that can help you and your relationship flourish. The top 3 that Alan and I both came together and we were like, yeah, we got to give them this. The first one is a shared note, or rather a shared to-do list.
To-do lists are the way.
Mm-hmm.
I have so much to talk about to-do lists. I'm obsessed with to-do lists.
Mm-hmm.
They put your brain onto a piece of paper and they create certainty. I'm excited.
Yeah.
What are the other 2?
So the other 2, so the second one is a whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere that you can see it together. We'll go deeper into that in a sec. And then the third one is a calendar. Like I had mentioned, that image that we had at our breakfast table. Just you and me and our calendar, baby.
Okay, so the first thing I want to articulate to everyone is that you and I, when we first got together, we were the weirdos who have always felt weird, different, extremely future-oriented, extremely goal-oriented, extremely calendar-focused. I had never met someone who uses their calendar to the extent that Emilia does. I had never met someone who wanted the whiteboard to be a centerpiece of their home. I had never met someone who loves lists more than me until you. So we just want to give a disclaimer here. You can take or leave this. This is a buffet, okay? You come in, you see what food you like, you take it, leave the stuff that's spicy, leave the stuff that's fish or whatever you don't like, okay?
Or modify it to your unique style.
Yep.
You know, because there's a 1.0 version of our tools that we're going to share in here that actually can be really helpful for a relationship that may be nothing like ours.
Okay, so in the beginning of our relationship, we started to do those 3 things. We had shared to-do lists in an iCloud note that we shared because we both use iPhones. So if you don't use iPhones, you got to find a different platform. There's a million of them. Here's my truth. Keep it simple. If it's complex with all these tasks and deadlines and to-do thingy, like Asana, no. I'm telling you, I teach people all day, every day. Not all day, but I coach 26 people at this point. I help them be more productive for a living. I'm telling you, the more complex the system, the less likely you use it.
And I need to give some context to this because I feel like this really warrants a story. And I'm giggling because not only of our personal experience and how much this is going to micro trigger you in the best way for our listeners, but also
nothing triggers me.
I also really want to echo a lot of the sentiment that we've heard, not only in our shared clients world, but also in our individual clients world, which is there's a predisposition for the feminine nature to expand. And that includes expand the to-do lists. So you can have a to-do list, which pretty much roll up to be 3 things that a feminine creature will break down into 28 different things. And that is literally the antithesis to what Alan just said, is trying to keep things simple. So when Alan and I first got together, I was very detail and still am very detail oriented. And we being people who wanted to do things together, as a lot of relationships want to do things together, whether that be go on, specific dates, or maybe you might not be living together, but you might want to go explore, experience something together as the relationship. So when I started to really engage in this format with you, it was fascinating because every single time Alan would come back into the note after I had touched it, it was like 18 different things were added on, and immediately that stressed him out. However, what was really awesome that I'm going to share, you brought into the to-do list realm, which I think there's kind of always that ebb and flow in relationships, is someone's always expanding and the other person is always kind of contracting. What you did was you helped us to narrow down our to-do list so that we really focused in on the things that mattered the most to us, that were urgent, important, and significant. And we kind of attacked those things. So for example, I remember we had put down in hindsight, this is funny. We had an adventure list, to-do list, and we had a movie to-do list. And there was a ton of movies and speeches and things that were entertainment oriented that you wanted to show me. And there was a ton of places that I wanted to go that I wanted to visit with you. And so like at one point it was like Tokyo, it was like Belgium. It was like all these different worldly places. And you had a mini freak out at one point of like, I don't know if we can do that right now, but we can still do a micro version of that. And we've been able to do things on that to-do list. As a matter of fact, if we check back on it now, you'd see how many check marks we have. And that has helped to kind of guide what dates we want to have, what different experiences we want to create, and the memories that we've been able to gather.
And so from now on, there's a few guidelines, not rules, guidelines to to-do lists. Number one, keep it simple. Keep it as simple as you can. Okay, and make sure it's easily accessible to each partner. Okay, so we use iCloud Notes, and we eventually transferred that to actually our whiteboard, which we're going to get into, so not yet. But make sure it's visible to both partners daily, and make sure it's all in one place. You cannot have one in Asana, one in Monday.com, one in iCloud Notes, one in Google Tasks, one in one in your journals, all your different journals. No.
Yeah.
You need to have the shared to-do list in one place where both partners have absolute certainty. It's like the Lord of the Rings reference. One ring to rule them all. One list to rule them all.
That stresses the feminine
I know. But that's the cool part about the expansion refocus thing, yin and yang, that you just mentioned. Okay, so moving on. Any other rules for to-do lists? Try to comb through the list and make sure that you check in on the list every now and then and start eliminating things.
Yes,
and
I would so much agree with that.
So what you'll do is you'll look at your list and you'll go, oh, we watched that movie. Oh, we went to that place. Oh, awesome. Check, check, check. Nice. Feels good. Yeah. Strong work. We're getting somewhere. We climbed that mountain.
Build the momentum.
Literally and figuratively. But every now and then you've evolved and you've changed, and it's like, now that I know you better and I know me better and we know the we better, let's can that.
Yeah, maybe Tokyo isn't.
Maybe that's not as aligned as we thought. Maybe the air pollution is going to be too much.
Yeah.
We'll see. That's my take, but whatever. So here's my point is you got to comb the list. And this is the trim the rose bush thing.
I agree.
And a rose bush cannot flourish unless you trim some of the buds. Again, I'm not a gardener, so I don't know, but you have to prune the rose bush, and it looks kind of scarce before it flourishes and blossoms. So make sure use this unique to you. Make sure there's one list in one place that you both have access to, that you both see daily, that does not end up with 90 things on it. There you go.
I like it.
Okay.
We'll start there.
You kind of like it.
I kind of
Some
like
of
it.
your parts like
And
it.
here's the thing. I want to be candid with that because you're going to have a version of that. Every relationship, every person listening to it, they're going to have their own version of that, like permission needing to give themselves to let things fall, to let things be deleted, to acknowledge the evolution that your relationship will naturally evolve into and progress into. And I think that that's actually a really cool indicator of how much you two will grow together, right? And also how much you two have accomplished together. So you guys actually have a track record of what you have been able to accomplish together. So I think that it can be wonderful in its own unique ways. So the second one is the second tool to help your relationship flourish is whiteboards. So Alan mentioned that he never thought that he would come across someone who wanted the heart of their home to be around whiteboards.
It's the first.
And honestly, I've never heard anyone else have that.
Game changer.
Yeah.
I just, from someone who didn't think of that idea personally and came into it from an outside perspective, and I've always been a big whiteboard, chalkboard fan in general, more whiteboard than chalkboard.
Yeah, you used to have them in your room.
I did. I had vision boards that were written out, whiteboards, all that. But and in my office, always whiteboard needed. But you, with the centerpiece of your home and using it in our relationship, has been the game changer. As a matter of fact, many of our clients, shout out to you, have actually implemented this, which we'll get into briefly. But sweetheart, you have been the champion of the whiteboard. If you were to take away, you don't know something's value until you take it away.
Bonnie here. I just wanted to share my experience with group coaching and some of the things that I got out of it. So going into group coaching, I was not tracking any habits at all. And I had sort of jumped on board habit tracking here and there, knowing it was a good idea, but not sort of ever succeeding with it. And so now some of them have become habits. I'm happy to say I wake up, I have a glass of water without even thinking about it anymore. So now I think it's probably time to gear up and like increase my water intake or change the water one a little bit, something like that. And so I highly encourage people to jump into group coaching. There's so much information that you will get out of it. I recommend bringing a notebook to all of the sessions and taking lots of notes, asking lots of questions, and rewatching the videos, because it is the video coaching part is just packed with information. I also really recommend that you check in with your accountability buddy and sort of lift each other up throughout the experience, because there's lots of momentum, it's really exciting, and then it gets hard. And so stick with it and carry on, and your life will be better for it. Okay, take care.
If we were to take away, if I look at the last 5 years, how much we've grown individually and collectively in our life, in our personal growth, in our careers, in our families, and everything, flourishing.
Yeah.
The whiteboard, if you took that Jenga block out,
Oh my goodness.
ruh-roh,
Yeah.
the whole tower might collapse. So
Definitely.
you can't climb higher until you have the right tools. And so this tool is a game changer. I know it sounds crazy. Please just bear with it.
Yeah, especially because one of the things that we find a lot of people, when we ask them what are the biggest challenges when it comes to relationships, a lot of people will say communication. And
We say whiteboard.
whiteboard is the antidote to that, because of the fact that whenever there's a disagreement or whenever you two aren't seeing eye to eye, one of the things that whiteboards do, they do a wonderful job at helping you guys get closer to that. And if communication, by default of aspiring towards a great relationship, if you know communication is going to be a challenge, because let's be real, that always is and will be a thing, but not if you have a whiteboard, right? And even then a little bit. Here's the thing, you can kind of overcome that. Why? Because we can use our artistic capabilities, whether they suck or whether they're like a different type of artistry that you've never seen. Like you can use that whiteboard to articulate your thoughts.
Who sucks? Whose art sucks?
Like, for example, Alan and I will get like after a walk, he and I will be like trying to communicate like an idea or a concept that we're thinking or an experience that we had and the breakthrough that we had. And what we'll do is like, we'll start to kind of get in a little bit of like a tiff, and it's because my brain's way more imaginary and visionary. And when you put pen to paper and you don't do it on like a small little napkin, but you do it on a whiteboard, that is a space that is sacred with the relationship. For us, it's our living room. That helps your ideas be able to merge together so much better, and thereby your communication skills be able to meet one another in a way that you could never maybe ever do with just your words and the sentiment that you're trying to convey through the words that you choose. So take that away, you and I would not be able to, we would have a really difficult time.
Be on the same page to the extent that we are.
Definitely.
And it helps you stay on the same page too, because here's the cheat code. If you do implement number 2, which is the whiteboard of these tools, now you can put your to-do list on the whiteboard.
I know, it can become a system of itself, not just to articulate on the micro your ideas and communicate effectively, but you can actually put like a shared to-do list right then and there.
So you and I had a trip where we drove from Massachusetts to South Carolina through 8 states.
Yep.
And prior to the trip, like many people do, we were freaking out because we hadn't packed yet.
We had a launch list.
And we had a launch list. Yeah. Exactly. And you created the launch list, Alan, Emilia.
Yeah.
And you just hammered all the items that need to get done so that when I get down from work, boom, 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 we can be proactive.
Good old brain dump.
And then one more thing, again, the key to the whiteboard, and then I think we have to move on to the next tool because we got clients soon. But the whiteboard also, I wrote a note for you this morning on it. That was a cute note because Emilia and I had a challenging conversation last night that it was good. We still went to bed in love, but I felt a little like wanting to give a little extra love this morning.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a little note on the whiteboard. I'm sorry.
Cute little love
I'm
note.
sorry I was not nice. And it was a really cute little thing. And it was like, I love you. And it was
so
great.
Sweet.
So I won't share the whole note because that's personal, but it was wonderful. And she woke up to a note on the whiteboard, which is wonderful. And I actually just found a note in my Dreamliner a couple days ago that you had written and dated from like months ago. And I actually, by the way, that was on a team huddle when I found that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was showing, because in my book, my new book that is going to come out in Q4, I was showing the Dreamliner and how the back is going to be similar. And then I saw it, and the team saw me see it, and I was like, oh, and it's like 3 months ago. Like,
so
oops. Yeah, it was
no,
really cute.
you're not. That's why it's there.
Yeah, it was very
and
cute.
To your point, the whiteboard is whatever you need it to be. That's why it's so impactful, because whether it's a love note that you want to express and maybe you're kind of in passing, going to work or trying to take the kids to school or whatever, and you want to say something to your partner, it's not necessarily through a text that you want to do. Like a whiteboard is something that's so personal and so sacred in I would say the love making aspect that is the relationship. Love is a verb, and you can also translate that in different forms, whether that be a love note on the whiteboard or whether that be a special adventure that you guys share. So it is what you make of it, and that's what makes it so exciting.
And the third tool is?
The third tool is the shared calendar. Like I said at the very beginning, that is huge. So Alan and I both used digital calendars, and this might be a snooze fest of an episode for a lot of people. But to be quite honest, that's why I said the mechanics of relationships that help them flourish, because people who are just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, which a lot of people do, and I'm not making that wrong. However, there are a lot of benefits that so many couples that do use calendars to help each other. I could never imagine
going back.
Literally, you and I always have that conversation. How do couples operate without a shared calendar, or without a calendar that they can look at?
Or without a whiteboard, or without a to-do list?
The truth is, a lot of couples won't. And the truth is, a lot of couples are far more stressed out, really hate the way in which they kind of exchange their time. And then a lot of things end up becoming a problem as a result of them not knowing where each other are, or what's going on in their shared household, or what a lot of people will roll that up into, which is poor communication. Like, oh, you didn't tell me that you didn't take the dog out, or, oh, you didn't tell me that you had a meeting when you were supposed to pick up the kids. Like, you and I have had plenty of relationship talks clients, especially in the past, where a lot of the deep-seated resentment, contempt from partner to partner was because of poor communication. But when we rolled that back, it really was because they were not applying this third tool. They weren't even conscious of what each other's time was, how that was being invested in. So that's why from what we've experienced, calendars are so important, is because we really can help each other understand how we're investing our time.
Couple ground rules before we go about calendar. Number one, it needs to be something you both, same with the to-do list, something you both have access to, something you both use daily or weekly, and something that you can both see easily, visibly, and that you can both update easily and visibly. So for example, if one of you is using Apple Calendar and one of you is using Outlook and one of you is using Google Calendar, it's not going to work. And I just made that seem like a 3-person relationship. But the point is use the same platform. So Emilia and I worked really hard to both use Google Calendars, and they work really well together. And that's been really, really helpful. When you were working in corporate at Alchemies, I had trouble when you were doing calendars that were Outlook versus Google. And I think you had them both, but I don't like that. I think that's a mistake. I really do. I think that what you need to do is be on the same platform. So number one, same platform. You can both update. You can both have visibility into each other's calendars. And it's just really helpful to know, if you want to be a team, you have to, it's like a sports team. You have a huddle before the play. So everyone knows what everyone's doing. Everyone knows everyone's responsibilities. Everyone knows where everyone's headed and who's throwing what pass and who's going what route.
Yeah.
It's really hard to collaborate without these tools. So imagine 2 couples. The first couple is humble and honest with themselves and says, you know what? We're going to flourish. I'm going to do a to-do list with my partner. I'm going to do a calendar with my partner, and I'm going to get a whiteboard with my partner. And yeah, I'm going to be made fun of, and my peers are going to think I'm a loser. But it's worth it, because egg on their face, I'm going to have a great relationship.
And I'm going to be far more successful than them.
And couple 2 is, you know what? Screw all that. I don't need any of that. We're totally fine flying by the seat of our pants. Okay, if that's you... good luck. Let me know how that goes, because I've been there and it never worked. So anyways, we do got to jump. Seriously. Thank you so much for listening. Go ahead.
The thing in closing that I'll say, if you notice between all 3 of those tools, it focuses in the guidelines that Alan gave. It focuses in on number 1, visibility. visibility that you two both have that you can tap into at any point if you wanted to. What that visibility does is, secondly, it translates to transparency between the relationship, which is so important for the third thing that it does, which is collaboration. And you just mentioned that. So to have all of the goodness and the flourishing that you have and you want in your relationship, those are what the 3 tools really brings to you: visibility, transparency, and ultimately collaboration, which is a lot of what couples want. They want to be a team. They don't want to feel like disparate parts of different worlds. They want to be able to merge and to integrate and to collaborate. And so that's what these 3 tools will help set you and your relationship up to do and to have. And I'm so excited for anyone who does have that humility and really takes that proactive step to apply these tools.
Same. So everyone wants to be in alignment with their partner. Everyone wants to be on the same page. We want to be on the same wavelength. You've heard people say, we're not on the same page. We're not on the same wavelength. We're not on the same team.
Yeah.
We're not in alignment. Don't let that be you. These tools allow you to consistently and sustainably be in alignment. One disclaimer is, if you don't use a to-do list in your personal life and you don't use a calendar and you haven't used these tools individually, it's going to be just understand that one partner probably has higher skills in these tools. You had higher skills in calendar and certain things. So you needed to be patient with me.
Yeah.
And so just understand you got to give grace where you need to. And this is going to be a fail forward type of thing.
And a creative process, which I think can be really, really fun if you look at it from that frame.
Fair.
So
it can also be brutal. So I want to prepare them.
Right.
There's going to be some points of contention as you innovate, but hang with it. And have grace for your partners who are less developed in these tools.
That's where Relationship Talks Coaching comes in.
And that's where Relationship Talks Coaching comes in. So speaking of that, if you do want to understand the deeper layers of what we do in our relationship to help and make sure it flourishes, and what we apply with our clients, not only to stay on the same page and on the same wavelength and to flourish in their relationship, but also to achieve their goals and dreams, homes, careers, all that kind of stuff, Relationship Talks Coaching, book a free 30-minute session. It's completely free. We're not going to sell you anything. We want to meet you. We want to understand you. Understanding and meeting you helps us. We also just want to help. So please reach out if you and your partner, or just you, want to meet us and dive into some of the things that are going to make the biggest difference.
I'm so excited for that. We're literally about to jump into a Relationship Talks Coaching call right after this. Super excited for that. So in closing, while you're in the show notes, there's also going to be a link to register for our 36th Relationship Talks event. 3 years going strong, celebrating the conscious couples and conscious singles community. It's been an absolute blast, and it's been so amazing. So
did we do events before we did the podcast? How is that possible that we have?
We did. We didn't have a studio.
Really? So we did events first?
Yeah, we did.
How wild is that?
Yeah, because we didn't have our studio. Yeah.
Anyways, we'll talk offline.
Anyways, with that being said, like I said, in the show notes will be a link to register for that. It's free, it's live, it's virtual, it's every single month a different topic. This one's going to be a good one. I say that every single time, but the truth is they're all really incredible. So with that being said, what we're going to be talking about is the 3 phases of conflict you must learn. Again, if you don't have the tools, you'll be headed towards conflict. Communication is challenging in general, but what happens when you do experience conflict? How are you navigating the 3 phases of conflict? And are you doing that in a way that can help build your relationship to be more resilient, more calm, more cool in the study of the conflict? Or is it, kind of bust and you guys end up off the same page that you wanted to be on? So that's what we're going to get into in that Relationship Talks event. We hope you will join us, and we cannot wait to see you either in the next episode or at that event.
The metaphor here is, if you can't handle conflict well, you're going to knock down the Jenga tower instead of rebuild those blocks and create a stronger foundation through the conflict. All right. Thank you. And as always, thank you for listening. It's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is a Lazaros 88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.